For the IST 331 team project, Team 9 chose to design the user interface of a sandwich kiosk for WaitSub. WaitSub is a food service company that serves various colleges in Pennsylvania, and one of the products that WaitSub serves is fresh sandwiches made according to the customer's order. WaitSub's sandwich kiosk would allow customers to create their sandwiches and send out their orders while waiting in line. This would allow customers to receive their custom sandwiches much faster than before. Team 9 analyzed the possible user groups of WaitSub's sandwich kiosk and determined that there would be two major user groups: customers and employees. Customers would mostly be college students, but could also be college visitors and college personnel of varying ages. Employees could be college students or young adults working for WaitSub. After discussing the user groups of the sandwich kiosk, Team 9 began designing the user interface of WaitSub's sandwich kiosk. The user interface would include a design for the customers and another design for the employees. On the customer's side would be an interactive interface that allows customers to choose a type of sandwich, select various ingredients, and adjust their order as desired. Meanwhile, the employee's side would allow WaitSub employees to manage the kiosk, see sales, view inventory, and adjust settings.
Once we decided on a concept for our project and had developed use case scenarios, users, and determined the basic functionality we wanted, it was time to prototype the software and really focus on the design decisions that would make it function. We started out with quick sketches and PowerPoint presentations, and eventually we moved it into prototyping software so that when we tested the functionality with outside users, they would see how everything connected together and how one series of clicks could lead to a new screen. Throughout the development of the prototypes, we really tried to emphasize reason for everything we were doing, keep the project focused and functional. We had weekly team meetings regardless of whether we had a team assignment due that week, so this really helped us share ideas, critique what we had, talk about new ideas, and just communicate with each other so we were on the same level. As you would kind of expect, we were in the process of taking IST 331, and a lot of the stuff we were learning in the course kind of got more focus or a new light on it as we studied those chapters, and some of that stuff was implemented into the project, and a lot of minor changes were made to the stuff we had. In the next few slides, I'm going to kind of discuss some of the principles we really thought were important or key to our particular project. And these were ideas we were keeping in mind all throughout the development, just to have the best functionality. The first here you see is moving the users through the process quickly and showing their progress. We always had this little map along the bottom showing their past decisions, the step they were on, and how many steps were in the total process. They had back and continue, some navigational buttons to move around, which also leads into the next topic of correcting errors. Every time you make something selectable, when we implement the actual program, we would want to have it so that you click on that item again and it's deselected. You could also, at the end of the page, jump to any category that had an error that you didn't like, press the edit button, and it would move you back to that step. Some pages with a lot of options, we just had a reset selection so that if users felt something was going totally wrong, they could just reset everything and start over, because a lot of people are just more comfortable with that. Kiosk systems are one of the primary places you want to use the text and images to support each other. I mean, looking at ours, if you don't really know what the picture is, you can read the text and still understand that's what it is, or if you don't really speak the language or read the text well, you still have an image to kind of give you a hint or an idea. Different people might rely on different items, whether it's the text or the image, or It just makes things quickly recognizable. We wanted to make the stuff readable too, which a lot of times comes down to just inserting the right amount of white space in there or area around the text and just enlarging everything as big as we can without kind of spilling over the screen or looking cluttered. I thought it kind of interesting that we were trying to demonstrate a configuration screen, because if we gave the customer a lot of options, they could actually harm the usability while we still provide them with the function they want. So when we designed the font screen, just as a little fun fact on the side, we started setting everything so that you couldn't totally break usability in the way you had options or customability. You still had to pick fonts that would make reasonable sense to everyone, and it wouldn't really affect the size or display or the readability of the content, even though you had some options available. One of our other principles was trying to keep things predictable and recognizable. Throughout the program, you'll see a lot of the buttons show up in the same places, like your reset, your continue, your back, your map. You kind of have an idea of where everything's going to be before you even enter the next page. You'll see the spacing similar, a lot of times the same format in the buttons, the same color-coded meanings, the same types of lists, just to make everything flow and move quickly to the user who had seen the previous screen, so they can recognize the new aspects immediately from the old stuff that they would expect. The next principle was the groupings and separations, like aligning the information a lot of times tells the user that it has similar meaning. In ours, you can see some of the background work where it'll show a full category behind the dressing screen, and then the subcategories each have their own little background, categorizing them as their distinct entities. You can see the use of the interchangeable white and light gray in the dressing screen there. When we have a list, we like to use that just so you can visualize how the checkbox lines up with the text easier that way than if it was all white. One of the things I didn't mention earlier when we were talking about combining pictures and text was we do the same thing with colors and symbols for functionality. Like, we have the checkbox to indicate that something selects it, but we also have the green color, which might be quickly recognizable as highlighting it or showing the user the selection.
Certain challenges the team faced was making sure that the system was user-friendly and allowed for users of all ages. We also wanted to make sure that the employee interface would provide the staff and management the tools needed for day-to-day operations, as well as find a method so as to receive user feedback. Other challenges we faced within the group was the ability to meet for weekly meetings with everyone's busy work schedules, and finding the proper methods of communication, as well as making sure that each team member contributes equally to the task at hand. We did end up having success with the system design by creating a model that allows for user-friendliness for different age groups through items such as the layout, theme, and color. We were able to provide staff with an employee model with a system that showed items such as sales, inventory, and all based on their needs. Further success came from feedback we received after running a usability test with different users. Some more success attained was within the team, where everyone was willing to change the meeting times so as to include all team members. We were also able to establish proper communication through the use of items such as Gmail and Google Hangouts. This provided documented proof of what tasks were to be completed and by whom, which allowed for equal disbursement of work and was verified by our team leaders.
This is John Marty, and I'm going to run through the high-fidelity prototype for the WaySub kiosk. Here's the opening screen we have for customers. They can choose what type of product they want, either a wrap or a sub. We're going through the run-through of sub options right now. First, you have the bread type. And on this page, you can see we've introduced the restart order button, the skip to finish button, the back button, the continue button, and then at the bottom is a list of what previous choices you've already made, which you can click on to go back to that step. Next we have the meat selection button, which lists 3 different types of options. You have cold cuts, hot, cold salads, and you can select one of the options and it will highlight it and it will eliminate the options that you can't pick. And we've also introduced here the reset button, selection button, which will allow you to reset this screen so you can choose a different option if you would like. Next we have the cheese selection, which is similar to the meat selection. You can choose a different cheese. And then at the bottom you have the option to go back to any of the previous selections you have, either the sub, the bread type, the meat type. And here we have vegetable selection, which is the same as the cheese and meat selection. Here we have different dressings. You can choose as many selections from this page as you'd like, so you can have one from condiments, one from salad dressings, one from hot sauces. There's no exclusions. You also can reset your selections here to clear any of them. You can continue to the finish. And this is the order summary for the customer selection. Here you can edit each selection if you would like to change it, and then come back here. It shows the total cost of the sub. You can submit your order. You also have the option to restart if you do not like your selection or want to make a change. Now we move on to the employee section. This is the initial page where the employee logs in for security reasons, and you have the back button here. Here's the employee menu. And as you can see here, we have 3 options: sales, inventory, and settings. Also at the bottom we have the button layout for the entire employee side. We have the back button, the logout button, and the menu button. You will see these buttons throughout every slide in the employee side, so the employee knows how to exit out or log out of the kiosk. Here's the sales slide, and as you can see, it's broken down into different time periods. We have the quarterly, monthly, weekly, and daily sales reports available, which the employee can click on to see how the sales went for that time period. Here's an example of the weekly sales report. Next we have the inventory page, which will allow the employee to find out what items are out of stock or in stock, or what items are selling the best. Here we have a bread inventory example, which shows how much of the bread is available. Next we have the settings page, which will allow the manager or employee to edit the kiosk's different settings on the kiosk. First we have the title and header section. This is where they can edit the different titles of each page on the kiosk, and it will give you a preview and let you change the size, the font, or the color and the text. And you can apply and change it. And then you also have the logout and main menu still. Next we have the font, which you can change the font in each for the entire kiosk. And you can edit the different icons that show up in the kiosk for the different products you have. So if you want to add or change the icons, you can. Finally, we have the edit menu items section, where you can change different menu items in each category for the customer side. And here you'll notice that we have had the same button location and color scheme throughout the employee and customer side in order to let the user be able to predict where they should be clicking and know what items they are selecting through memory. This shows the page it brings up when you delete an item. So this is our high fidelity prototype. We have made many changes throughout the process, and we have tried to give the user the best experience possible by making everything continuous, easy to read, and straightforward. Thank you.